What's up, guys? It's your boy Vic. We back with another video. And today we're going to talk about getting out of scarcity mode. You know, in life, a lot of things connect, right? At one time in my life, I had a struggle with females, right? I had a struggle where I felt like I couldn't get females, or I felt like I couldn't, get a girl or a girlfriend and stuff like that. There was a time in my life where that was actually a struggle for me. And one of the things I realized that kind of relates to life in general is scarcity mode, right? I think the reason why I couldn't get girls is because I wasn't in a scarcity mode in my life, right? Like I didn't have any, and therefore it contributed to me not having more, right? And I think it's the same thing with money to a certain extent. And all right. And what you guys have to realize is that if you're in scarcity mode in any point in your life, the way you have to get out of it, right? Because scarcity is not going to attract more to you. It's going to repel more from you. And so I advise all young dudes, young men to get their shit together and get out of scarcity mode, right? And I think the first thing we got to look at is what is scarcity, right? What is scarcity mode? And what scarcity mode is pretty much you're not having enough money for your basic needs. When I first got out to California, I was in scarcity mode. I probably was in scarcity mode out in California for like the first 3 to 4 years, right? I was in a band. I had a mediocre job. I was barely making enough. I was making like 30, 40,000, barely making enough. And I was always in scarcity mode. I wasn't dating. I couldn't do shit because it was just like, I couldn't make any money. I didn't know how to make money. I couldn't make money. And, sorry guys. You know, it's making enough money to basically take care of your needs. That's a start to getting out of scarcity mode. But that is what scarcity mode, when you just don't have enough to do what you need to do or do what you want to do, right? And then as soon as I got this gold job, I started making more money and I got out of scarcity mode. You know what I mean? And so I started at the furniture job, which I made more money, which I started to get out of scarcity mode. Then I went to the gold job, and that's when I really got out of scarcity mode because I was making way more than enough money. And I was living below my means, right? So, part of getting the scarcity mode is making more money and covering your basic needs. And then once you have enough to do that, start saving up. You know what I'm saying? When you don't have anything saved up, where it's like, okay, I know I got at least 2 to 3 months, rent covered, bills, basic bills and things of that sort. When you don't have that stuff, you start to always be panicking. You're always panicking about what's coming next, what's next, where, how I'm gonna pay for this, how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna do that. And you start to panic really because you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, right? Because you don't have nothing saved up, you don't have nothing, you gotta make sure you gotta go to work, you can't get sick. So you gotta starting to save some money up for yourself and making that happen, right? You got to get yourself out of scarcity mode by starting to save some money ahead of time, right? They say you should have 3 to 6 months in your bank account for reserves, right? If you don't have that, that's what you need to work on, 3 to 6 months. And so making more money will help with that, but having that 3 to 6 months cushion is like, you're in a different kind of mindset now. You're like, okay, I can take a little bit of risk here. I can spend a little bit of money here, this and that. So, look at that and look at that in your life and realize that you have to save up some money so you can get out of scarcity mode. And then lastly, scarcity mode is check to check. You don't want to be living check to check, right? That's why you have to have 3 to 6 months in your bank account, because check to check is not a good feeling. And I finally got myself out of that place in my life where, I'm not living check to check anymore, and it feels good. It feels good. I'm getting a little low on my savings, but I'm going to start revamp it up and just getting back to the money, you know what I mean? But you got to start looking at that and you got to start doing that and realize that, okay, I need to get out of scarcity mode by saving up, covering my basic needs and not living check to check. Now, why do you need to get out of this, right? You have to get out of this before you go on your entrepreneur journey, because you make better decisions when you're not in scarcity mode, right? When everything is not tight and you're like, I got to do this, or I got to put it all on this crypto, or I got to put it all on this business. You don't have to do that once you're out of scarcity mode. When you're out of scarcity mode, you don't have to put it all on one thing and hope it works, because most likely it's not. trust me, I've been doing this entrepreneurship for like 6 years now. Most of the time, it's not put it all on one thing that's gonna work, because most of the time it doesn't work. So getting out of scarcity mode, doing that is, you know, you make better decisions when you're out of scarcity mode, right? And you need to experience, I think you also need to experience being out of scarcity mode before you go into entrepreneurship, because then you have an actual bar or a level of like, okay, I know what it feels like to have my shit together. So I want to get back to that point. I just want to get back to that point through my own entrepreneurship, right? If you're an entrepreneur who never experienced any like level of safety in their life, I think you kind of don't have anything to gauge off of whether you're successful or not right now, or if you're heading towards your success, right? If you don't have that level of, well, I've been somewhere where I knew I was stable. Now I need to get back to that point and go further past that point. But if you've never been to that point, then it's hard to really know, right? So that's why, you know, getting a job and making sure you get a little bit of stability here is always, you know, there's nothing wrong with that when you're an entrepreneur. Because you don't want to be stuck trying to figure out what's the level of like security that you have, right? And so you want to be able to experience that before entrepreneurship. And the last thing is, how do you get out of it, right? How do you get out of scarcity mode? And the way you do that is save what you have, make more money, and live off less, right? So when you make more money, what you don't want to do is start going and getting a nice apartment, getting a financed car, and doing all this shit. You don't want to do that when you start making money. You actually want to make more money and keep your expenses low. Now, I struggle with that. Personally, because even though I hadn't moved out my apartment or my house, I've been spending more on dates. I've been spending more on eating out. I've been spending more on Uber, things of that sort that I usually wouldn't spend if I was broke or it was tight. You know what I mean? So I got to work on that myself this year, most likely. Going on vacations. I've been on like 3 or 4 vacations last year. So, you know, I got to really tighten up on that. And I'm going to do that this year, hopefully. And so, well, I'm going to do that this year, just starting to tighten up on things, right? So when you have extra money, you tend to spend more, right? And so you got to be careful with that. It's called lifestyle creep. When a certain person makes more, they start spending more. And that's how you keep yourself in the cycle of continuous, you know, trying to make more money to, you know, finance a life. Right? So those are some things, those are some tips I'm going to give out to you guys. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, to get out of scarcity mode, make more money, save a bit of it, and continue to make more money and continue to try to make more money and take yourself to the next level. And you should be good. Like, I know for me, I made good money last year. I'm going to make good money this year, but I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to take a risk on business to try to start my own shit again. You know, that's what you got to do, man. You can't depend on someone else for money, or some organization for money. That means they can control you. And for me and everybody on this channel, we want freedom. Freedom from the matrix, freedom from a job, freedom from anybody else telling us what the fuck to do. And that's what kings do. They find freedom. That's why you're a king, because you led your kingdom, you made your kingdom out of your own blood, sweat, and tears, right? And that's what we do on this channel. We kings trying to make shit happen. And it's your boy Vic. This is another video. This is King Squared. Peace.